The night I drove a drunk stranger home, I thought I was simply doing the right thing. I had no idea that by sunrise, one small act of kindness would put my entire career, my reputation, and my future at risk. The woman sleeping in the passenger seat looked completely broken, and when I finally saw the address on her phone, my heart nearly stopped. It was the same mansion I had visited every Monday morning for the past 3 years. She wasn't a stranger at all. She was my boss's daughter. My name is Daniel, and at that time, my life was anything but easy. I worked as a junior financial analyst at a large investment company, where every mistake could cost someone thousands of dollars. My boss, Mr. Harrison, was known for being brilliant, demanding, and almost impossible to impress. I respected him, but I was also terrified of disappointing him because my job was the only thing keeping my small family financially stable. My mother depended on me, and after my father passed away, I had promised myself that I would never allow our home to fall apart. That Friday night, I stayed late at the office finishing a report. By the time I left, rain had started falling heavily, turning the streets into mirrors beneath the city lights. As I drove home, I noticed a young woman sitting alone on a bench outside a closed cafe. Her head was hanging forward, and she looked completely helpless. Cars passed without slowing down, but something about her made me stop. When I stepped closer, I could smell alcohol. She was clearly drunk, but she wasn't loud or aggressive. She was crying quietly, trying to unlock her phone with shaking hands. She kept repeating that she needed to get home, but she couldn't remember how to call a taxi. I considered walking away. I had my own problems, and getting involved with a drunk stranger could create trouble. But then she looked up with tears in her eyes, and I remembered something my father used to say, when someone is at their weakest, that's when kindness matters most. So I offered to drive her home. She hesitated, then finally gave me her phone. The address was saved under a contact labeled "Home." I entered it into my navigation and started driving. For most of the journey, she barely spoke. She stared through the window at the rain, occasionally wiping tears from her cheeks. Then, in a quiet voice, she admitted that she had ruined everything. She said her father was disappointed in her and that she had spent years trying to become someone she wasn't. I didn't know what had happened, so I simply told her that one terrible night didn't have to define her entire life. If stories about kindness, second chances, and unexpected moments touch your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Ripple of Kindness. Your support helps us bring more stories like this to people who believe that one small act can change a life. When we reached the address, I slowed down in front of an enormous iron gate. The mansion beyond it was unmistakable. My stomach dropped. I had seen this house before. Many times. It was my boss's home. Before I could process what was happening, the woman opened her eyes and looked at me. She whispered her name, and suddenly everything made sense. She was Emily Harrison, the daughter of the man who signed my paychecks. I froze. Emily noticed my expression and asked whether I knew her father. I couldn't lie. I told her that I worked for him. Her face changed instantly. She looked embarrassed, then frightened. She begged me not to tell him about tonight. I promised I wouldn't. The gate opened, and a security guard approached the car. I helped Emily out and made sure she could reach the front door safely. Before I left, she held my arm and thanked me. Then she disappeared inside. I drove home wondering whether I had made the biggest mistake of my life. The following Monday, I walked into the office expecting the worst. Mr. Harrison was standing beside my desk with a serious expression. My heart pounded. I was certain Emily had told him everything. He asked me to follow him into his office. I sat down, expecting to hear that I had crossed a line by driving his daughter home. Instead, he placed a folder on the desk and told me something that stunned me. Emily had been struggling for months. She had recently left her job after a terrible argument with him, and he had no idea how badly she was hurting. Then he said he knew I had driven her home. I felt my face burn with embarrassment. I explained exactly what happened and apologized for getting involved. But he didn't fire me. Instead, he thanked me. He told me that several people had seen his daughter struggling but had walked away because they were afraid of getting involved. I was the first person who had helped her without asking for money, recognition, or a favor. Then he told me something even more painful. He had spent years trying to protect Emily by giving her everything except the one thing she truly needed, his time. That conversation changed something between us. A few weeks later, Emily returned to the company, not as an employee, but to speak with her father. She had started attending counseling and had decided to rebuild her life on her own terms. She apologized to him, and for the first time, he admitted that he had been so focused on building a successful company that he had forgotten how to be a father. I watched their relationship slowly heal from a distance. But the biggest surprise came several months later. Mr. Harrison called me into his office again. This time, there was no cold expression on his face. He told me that he wanted to promote me to a senior position. I immediately assumed it was because of what happened with Emily, but he shook his head. He said the promotion wasn't a reward for driving his daughter home. It was because he had realized something about me that night. He had seen the kind of person I was when nobody was watching. He told me that skills could be taught, but character couldn't. I accepted the promotion, but the real reward wasn't the higher salary or better title. It was what happened afterward. Emily and her father began having dinner together every Sunday. She started rebuilding her career and eventually launched a small nonprofit that helped young adults struggling with addiction, loneliness, and family pressure. One evening, she sent me a message thanking me for stopping that rainy night. She said she couldn't remember everything about the drive, but she remembered one thing clearly: I had treated her like a human being when she felt like a failure. Those words stayed with me. Years later, I still think about that night whenever I'm tempted to ignore someone else's struggle. We often imagine that changing a life requires money, power, or some extraordinary sacrifice. But sometimes it only requires stopping your car, opening a door, and refusing to walk away. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who needs a reminder that kindness still exists, and subscribe to Ripple of Kindness for more emotional stories about hope, compassion, and second chances. And before you leave, I want to ask you something special. Comment: kindness can change a life, if you believe one small act of compassion can make a difference. Because that rainy night taught me a lesson I'll never forget. I thought I was driving a drunk girl home. In reality, I was helping a broken family find its way back to each other, and somewhere along the way, I discovered that the smallest acts of kindness can open doors we never knew existed.